The moment she walked through the sliding glass doors, the air inside the store shifted. Conversations slowed. A few heads turned. No one knew her name yet, but everyone could feel her presence like a storm rolling in without warning. She didn't browse. She didn't hesitate. She marched straight down the main aisle, heels striking the floor with sharp, impatient clicks, eyes scanning the room as if she already owned it. This wasn't shopping. This was a takeover. Her voice cut through the store before anyone could stop her. Loud, sharp, demanding. She snapped her fingers at a young cashier who hadn't even noticed her yet. "You, don't just stand there," she barked, pointing like she was giving orders to an employee beneath her. The cashier froze, confused, glancing around as if waiting for someone else to step in. No one did. That was the first mistake. Within seconds, she started rearranging reality itself. She told one customer to move because she was in the way. She instructed another employee to open a register that wasn't even staffed. When a man politely said he was next in line, she laughed and stepped in front of him anyway. "Learn how stores work," she snapped, even though everyone knew she was wrong. Her confidence was terrifying, almost convincing. People exchanged uncomfortable looks. Some whispered. Some pulled out their phones but kept them low, unsure if this was about to become a scene or something worse. She thrived on the attention. The louder the room grew, the more powerful she seemed. Every rule she broke fed her sense of control. Every person who stayed silent confirmed her belief that she could do whatever she wanted. Then she spotted the manager's desk. Her eyes lit up like she'd found a throne. She slapped her purse down on the counter and announced, "I'm not leaving until this store does what I say." The words hung heavy in the air. That was the moment when things crossed a line. This wasn't entitlement anymore. This was domination. What she didn't realize, what no one told her, was that control is fragile. Push it too far, and it shatters. And somewhere in that store, someone had finally had enough. The store felt smaller now, like the walls were slowly closing in around everyone trapped inside her orbit. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, chin lifted, wearing a smug smile that dared anyone to challenge her authority. The cashier stood frozen behind the register, fingers hovering over keys, afraid to press anything without permission. Customers whispered behind shelves, their patience thinning like frayed rope stretched too far. She started issuing commands like a general on a battlefield. "You, move those boxes. You, stop staring. Someone bring me a chair." Every sentence carried the same assumption, that obedience was guaranteed. When a teenage employee tried to explain they weren't allowed to rearrange displays, she rolled her eyes and laughed loudly. "Rules are for people without confidence," she declared, as if it were wisdom instead of arrogance. The manager finally stepped forward, voice calm but cautious. He tried reasoning, explaining store policy, offering help. She didn't listen. She talked over him, louder, faster, turning every sentence into a performance. Her hands sliced the air dramatically, punctuating words like punctuation marks of power. People stopped shopping entirely. The store became an audience. But power built on noise has cracks. A quiet woman near the back slowly stepped out from behind a shelf. She had been watching the chaos unfold with patient, steady eyes. She wasn't filming. She wasn't whispering. She wasn't scared. She walked forward with slow, deliberate steps, stopping just a few feet from the counter. Her presence felt different, calm, grounded, unshaken. The loud woman barely noticed her at first. Then she snapped, "Unless you work here, stay out of it." The calm woman didn't flinch. She simply asked, softly but clearly, "Why do you think everyone owes you obedience?" The question landed harder than any shout. The loud woman scoffed, but her confidence flickered for a fraction of a second. "Because someone has to take control," she replied, though the words sounded rehearsed, like a line she'd practiced in her head for years. The calm woman nodded slowly, as if considering the answer. "Control," she repeated, "or fear." Silence rippled across the store. The loud woman opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out immediately. She wasn't used to being questioned, especially not without hostility. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't shouting. This was something worse. Reflection. People leaned forward, sensing a shift. The manager stepped back slightly, curious now. The cashier lifted their eyes for the first time. The energy in the room changed, no longer fueled by chaos but by anticipation. And the calm woman wasn't finished speaking. The first crack in her authority appeared as a pause, a small one, barely noticeable. She stopped talking for half a second, scanning the store, realizing people weren't reacting the way they used to. No one looked intimidated anymore. They looked annoyed, curious, ready. The security guard spoke into his radio quietly, turning his body away from her. That single movement ignited her again. "Don't ignore me!" she shouted, stepping closer. "I'm the customer. I decide what happens here." Her phone was still recording, angled to make herself look powerful, righteous, unstoppable. The manager raised his hand. "Ma'am, we've asked you multiple times to calm down. If this behavior continues, we'll have to ask you to leave." She smiled. Not a friendly smile. A victorious one. "You can't make me leave," she said slowly, savoring each word. "I haven't done anything wrong." That's when a voice from behind broke the tension. "You're wrong." Everyone turned. A middle-aged woman stood near the aisle, arms crossed, eyes steady. "You cut in line. You insulted staff. You don't control us." Her words were calm, but firm. The store held its breath. The entitled woman scoffed. "Mind your business." "It is my business," the woman replied. "You made it everyone's business." Another customer nodded. Then another. A man spoke up. "She's right. You've been bullying people for 20 minutes. A ripple moved through the crowd. Murmurs turned into agreement. The power she thought she held was slipping, and she could feel it. Her voice grew shrill. "You're all against me now? Of course you are." She spun toward the manager. "This is harassment. I'm calling corporate." "You're free to," the manager said calmly. "But you still need to leave." The word leave hit her like a slap. "I'm not going anywhere," she screamed. "Touch me and I'll sue everyone in this store." The security guard stepped forward fully now. "Ma'am, this is your final warning." She laughed again, but it sounded forced. Her eyes darted around. Phones were everywhere. Faces weren't afraid anymore. They were watching her fall. Then the front doors slid open behind her with a soft mechanical sound, and 2 uniformed officers walked in. The store exhaled. Her smile vanished. The moment the officers stepped inside, the balance of power snapped. Not slowly, instantly. The entitled woman stiffened, her shoulders tightening as if she could physically hold control in place. For a split second, she tried to recover, lifting her chin and forcing a laugh that fooled no one. "Oh, good," she said loudly, spinning toward them. "Perfect timing. These people are harassing me." The officers didn't react the way she expected. They didn't rush to her side. They didn't nod in agreement. One of them calmly scanned the room, taking in the phones raised, the shaken cashier, the manager standing silently nearby. The other asked a simple question. "Ma'am, what seems to be the problem?" She launched into a rehearsed speech. She exaggerated. She skipped details. She painted herself as the victim, the hero, the only reasonable person in a room full of incompetence. She gestured wildly, pointing at employees, customers, even the security guard. Her voice rose with every sentence, desperate to overpower the truth before it could surface. The officer listened without interrupting. When she finally paused, breathless, he nodded once. Then he turned to the manager. "Sir, is that accurate?" The manager shook his head. Calm, clear. He explained everything, cutting the line, verbal abuse, refusal to leave, repeated warnings. Customers backed him up one by one. Short statements, consistent stories, phones captured everything. Her face drained of color. "Ma'am," the officer said firmly, "you were asked to leave multiple times. You refused. That's trespassing." She stepped back. No, you don't understand. I'm the customer. They provoked me." The officer didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. "You need to exit the store now." The word now shattered what little composure she had left. "I'm not leaving," she screamed. "This is illegal. I know my rights." Her hands shook as she waved her phone, still recording, still trying to control the narrative. The second officer stepped forward. "Turn off the phone and walk with us." That's when reality finally hit her. Control wasn't something she could demand. It wasn't something she could shout into existence. And now, it was completely gone. Customers watched silently as she was escorted toward the doors, still protesting, still blaming everyone else. The automatic doors opened again, this time not as an entrance, but as an exit. And everyone knew this wasn't over yet. The doors slid shut behind her, cutting off the echoes of her shouting like a sudden silence after a storm. Inside the store, no one spoke at first. It felt strange, almost unreal, how calm everything was now. Shelves stood neatly. Lights hummed softly. The chaos she brought with her vanished the moment she left. Outside, she continued arguing, her voice muffled through the glass. She paced back and forth, gesturing wildly at the officers, still trying to reclaim control with words alone. But the crowd inside no longer watched her with fear. They watched with distance. Detachment. The spell was broken. One officer handed her a notice and spoke firmly, professionally. The conversation ended quickly. When she realized there would be no apology, no reversal, no victory, her anger collapsed inward. She stopped yelling. Her shoulders sagged. The performance was over, and there was no audience left to impress. Inside, the manager let out a slow breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He thanked the customers for their patience. The cashier wiped her eyes and managed a small smile as someone quietly told her she'd handled it well. A ripple of relief moved through the store. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Shopping resumed. Carts rolled again. Conversations returned, softer now, almost reflective. People exchanged looks that said, "Did that really just happen?" Someone laughed nervously. Another shook their head. The incident would be talked about later, retold in messages and group chats. But its power was already fading. The calm woman who had spoken up earlier paused near the exit. She glanced back once, then left without fanfare. No applause followed her. No recognition. She didn't need it. She'd done what needed to be done, and moved on. Outside, the entitled woman stood alone now, phone lowered, screen dark. Without an audience, without resistance to push against, there was nothing left for her to fight. Control had never been hers. It had only existed because others stayed silent. The moment people spoke, it disappeared. That was the lesson the store quietly learned that day. Control isn't taken by shouting louder. It isn't enforced by humiliation or fear. It survives only when people allow it. And the moment they don't, when they stand together, when they stay calm, when they refuse to bend, it collapses faster than anyone expects. The doors opened again as a new customer walked in, unaware of what had just happened. Life moved forward. But for everyone who witnessed it, one thing was clear. She tried to control everyone in the store. And in the end, she controlled nothing at all.